We're live. That means I'm Brent Leary.
It doesn't actually mean I'm Paul Greenberg because we're live, but I am Paul
Greenberg. I thought I'd help you out. Just
I was losing my train of thought.
And that makes us the CRM Playaz sheltering in place for what is this, like week 9?
It's week. I don't remember what day or week or year it is. Week.
It's week X.
That's right.
But it's at least down here, it's a beautiful 70-degree sunny day in Atlanta Metro.
We're in this range of 55. You know, it's nice. The weather's nice. I mean, sunny now, but foggy. I mean, not foggy, but it was cloudy earlier. But, you know, we're not only we have this lovely weather, but we're also dealing now with 8 feral kittens in our backyard. We have a litter of 3 that we had for a while. We adopted a 4th one from that litter. So that's our 6th one in the house. But then last Saturday, I see this little tiny ginger, orange tabby-ish cat wandering around on our deck. And I said, oh my God, a kitten. And we knew who the mother was. I said, a kitten. And then a day or 2 later, Yvonne says, it's not 1, it's 3. And then 2 hours later, she says, no, it's 5. Somehow we saw 1. The mom had hidden 4 other ones, and now they're all here. We ended up building them a house, and they all go into this house now. And it's literally at the bottom of our deck. I mean, it was coming anyway. We were going to replace something. We just built it for them. They have a 2-door house now that they can be protected in from rain and bad weather and stuff.
2-car. Is that 2-bedroom garage?
No, the garage, actually, they have a trellis-like garage, portal garages. We didn't have room for a garage, but we have 2 doors, so they can 92 doors. Thus, you can go upstairs and go downstairs, whatever. But they're being fed very well. So we have now 8 kittens, and then our normal coterie of regular old cats out there. So we probably have 18 cats now in the backyard.
Hey, if cats want to know where the good eats are,
come on down.
There it is. There it is.
Down.
Hey, we need to say a quick hello to our buddy Sven. He says his comment is rock and roll. Does that mean he wants us to like sing and play instruments instead of talk?
Sven, that's not happening. Brent, can I maybe do that?
No, Brent can't.
Well, and I will put it this way. If I said, yeah, I'll do it, you would regret it.
Oh, wait a minute. I think you can't see, but I can see. Okay. Our player in residence has an answer. I'm not going to say anything more until we bring him on, but he is gearing up. Sven, stay right where you are.
Hey, wow.
All right. And we need to say yo to Alan Berkson. I thought Alan was from New York. Isn't yo like a Philly thing?
Who knows? Honestly, I'm sort of saying that in an insulting way to Philly. Like, I have no idea what Philly does any given day or what they think or how they think. So.
Well, you remember Yo Adrian.
Yeah, well, fair enough. And there's a statue to Yo Adrian, so to speak, there, to the speaker of that. So, so maybe, let's say that. Well, actually, the name of the third-party payer of SAP is Yo, YOH, so.
Well, MTV used to have this really good show called Yo MTV Raps. That was way back in the day.
Yo play yogurt. Yo play yo.
Yeah, we better.
Well, no, this is the song, right? Yo play yogurt. That's the song I want to hear. Yo play yogurt.
Sven, I blame this all on you. I bring this on Alan. Alan's the one with the yo. All right, so there it is.
And Sven,
all right,
join a happy hour. Come on, man.
Right.
We need to actually talk to you, not just talk to you this way. Happy hour, Sven. We want to introduce you to the mob.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we just did it yesterday. We had a good conversation.
Again, uniquely interspersed once again. What happens, I think it's happened, this is our 5th. And I'd say on it, if you count the overlaps between, if you count the individuals who've done it more than once as one, we've probably had a total of 80 slots filled by about 70 people, 71, maybe 72 people, because we sometimes oversubscribe, right? Got people past the bouncers. So, and what we find every single one of these things is, hey, I haven't seen you for 2 or 3 years. How you doing? Right? Or, yeah, we worked together at blah, blah. Yesterday was Jeff Nicholson and Ray Gerber working together at Pega was one. Who else do we have yesterday? And JP Saunders worked with, who did he work with? He worked with several.
He was at Oracle, wasn't he?
At Oracle, but he worked with Ray, though, I think, too, somewhere.
At Thunderhead?
No,
Jeff Nicholson worked with
Jeff worked in, I don't know. There was a bunch of those. But yeah. But it was amazing because they're not planned. No, we don't plan them. It's like we don't mix people we knew each other. It just happens every time. And, I'm sure the usual will say, we think, oh, it's a small world. It's actually not that small a world, right? I mean, we're talking about millions of people in it. Okay. So it's not like it's tiny. We're doing, this is 11 people in the whole thing. Right. So, of course they know each other. This is just, you've been around for years. You're eventually going to meet somebody. And that's the total amount of experience in that room. If you take it and multiply it times 15, is probably 1,000 years.
Yeah, there it is. Hey, all right. So Sven, yesterday, every Wednesday, 3:30 East Coast time here in the United States.
30 p.m.
Is when we do the happy hour. Actually, we should start calling it the happy 90 because it's way longer than an hour usually ends up. So, but here's my big takeaway from yesterday's happy hour. Okay. Martin Schneider knows everything.
He does. That was amazing. So
every topic.
We need to tell people who he is for those who don't know him, though. I mean, Martin is actually, he's kind of the chief evangelist for Sugar CRM. He's also been an industry analyst. Apparently, he's been around the world about 85 times and has played every genre of music known to man and has interacted with every human on the planet and knows every animal species and plant species in the universe, among other things.
And what's that kind? I mean, every kind of restaurant style there is, he has a recommendation for you when you go there. So that's
well, don't forget the other part of it, including the name of the person you need to talk to when you go.
Well, you got to have that. I mean, come on. I would have been disappointed if you had to part that.
Well, you remember what? Remember the one where you're trying to catch him on, what was it?
Was the Filipino something?
No, it was Asian. We're trying to catch him on Asian Cuban, and he basically came up with this restaurant that made Cuban food. I think they made Asian food, but the guy making it was Puerto Rican.
Yeah, it was a crazy mix. And also, he knows how to fly the Millennial Falcon. So that's what the big takeaway from yesterday's happy hour. Martin knows it all.
Right.
There it is. Okay. So Sven asked for music. It just so happens that our player in residence, because it is the first Thursday of the month, and first Thursdays mean Jamie Anderson, player in residence extraordinaire. Here he is.
Hey, how you guys doing?
How you doing?
We're doing just fine.
First Thursday means Big Wednesday. That's what it means.
Wow.
That means.
How do you plug it? It was 1990 what? One?
No, it was. Do you know? Really funnily, my dad, bless him, dropped off, a DVD because he actually believes people still use them. But he actually dropped off a DVD this week. He'd been going through old video cassettes, and he's in lockdown. He's saying, I don't know what to do with myself. So I converted these old video cassettes to DVD. And I thought, Dad, you could have missed that step. You could have just to put them straight onto digital. You didn't need to do that bit. You do realize that. And he was like, no. And so he gave me, funnily enough, he gave me a DVD of old press things, right, from the band days when we were on the telly and things like that. So I've been going through it, and it's actually very amusing. So
wow, that's really cool. Hey,
well, you were a rock star, dude. I mean, I don't think. Look, we called you a rock star, of course, metaphorically in the industry, but we're actually that was metaphor. Okay, I mean,
yeah, no, I loved it. I'll take it, because I'm certainly there's a bit of grey, coming in here and here, so I'll take it.
All I can say is.
But the thing that got me was as we were talking about Sven, I see Jamie busting out the guitar in the background.
Oh my God! Oh, listen. Well, look at this.
So little plug for Guild. They make great guitars. This is my second Guild.
Our first ad.
So
brought to you by Guild.
Brought to you by Jamie Anderson, sponsored by Guild.
Hey, so what's the weather like over there?
Do you know that is a brilliant question, because that would have been a great segue into Crowded House weather with you. And if I can't do that one. I can do another Crowded. If you want to hear a couple of licks, right? I mean,
go for it, man.
Go ahead.
I'm happy. Listen,
the weather's beautiful. So
there it is. You get the full screen, man.
There we go. Full screen
is yours, man.
Okay, so let's do it. I'm really close tonight, feeling like I'm moving inside her, lying in the dark, think that I'm beginning to know her. Let it go, I'll be there when you call, and whenever I fall at your feet, and you let your tears rain down on me, whenever I touch your slow turning pain. And then it goes into the next verse, but that's all for this evening.
Hey, man, that was awesome. Are you kidding me? That was great.
So,
hey, Sven got more than he bargained for when he came up with that.
There you go,
that is awesome.
That's you.
Jamie, listen, you should tell people a little bit about your actual rock history, just so people understand where that came from. I don't think they know.
So I'm a failed musician. Who decided to go?
I can't believe you're actually twisting history already. No, one sentence, you start twisting your own history.
Oh, the thing is, look, I had a lot of fun. It was the early 90s. It was Scotland. We were a very melodic little band. We had a kind of minor hit, I would say, in Scotland. But I'm very proud of it, proud of what we did. But but I couldn't make any money out of it. So I started programming, and actually, it served me okay. Things. I've done okay, and I'm very thankful. I've got lots of good memories. So obviously, that wasn't that out of it, in the early 90s. So all is good. I'm still here. So
there it is.
Let me encapsulate Jamie's career a little better than he just did. Right? I mean, that was like the worst biography of you I've ever heard. So Jamie's band actually had a song. It was what was the name of the football star?
So Danny McGrain,
right,
was Celtic legend, right? A major icon to all of
the song again was
it was called Sliding In Like McGrain.
Sliding In Like McGrain, I guess because of his move on the right.
Slide tackles were legendary. Yeah.
This literally became it literally went on the Scottish Billboard charts, went up the charts, right?
Yeah.
But it was not a failure. In fact, I actually on YouTube, if you search for it, you will find it, and you will find a video and a very handsome Jamie when he was like, what, 24 or something?
Yeah.
24 years old. Okay. He's singing, he's talking, and they're having conversation, and pictures of McGrain himself and all kinds of interesting cut scenes and blah, blah, blah. But you should go find the video. But I want you to think about it. He went from that to programming, sure. But then he went on, and when I met him, he was on his way to becoming, it was literally right at that point, becoming CMO of SAP Hybris. And now, then he became president of EMEA for Marketo. And now sits on boards like Exactly and user testing. And Exactly, by the way, is today's watch list actual,
which is awesome
subject. Right? Yeah, it kind of worked out. Actually, it was not deliberate. Believe me, we're not literally that smart, right? So, so Jamie's had like a great both career, but also impact in our world. Even more than he had in Scottish rock.
It's certainly more than I had in Scottish rock. I can tell you that. No, and it's, you know what? It's also a testament to the fact that, you know, anybody can do anything, and, you know, as long as you've got passion and you've got belief. I mean, look, Paul, you and I have known each other a long time. Brent, you know, similar, but slightly less. You know, I would say, I'm passionate about all things customer relationship management, always have been. I've spent my entire career in it. You know, we spoke a little last time, and Paul, you and I have spoken about it so often about what's the genesis of getting a career in customer relationship management or CX, and it's things that happen, it's things that you hook into. You know, it's projects that you did at the beginning of your career and realizing that, you know, the real secret sauce to being a great company is how you treat your customers. It's as simple as that. And the transformational projects I worked on at the beginning of my career, whether it was in utilities during the deregulation of that industry, whether it was telco, the same, whether it was when all the new regulations came into banking around, you know, the kind of 2000s about how you sold mortgages. I don't think that came over with gusto to the US, otherwise we wouldn't have had 2008. But, you know, there was regulations in place, and every type of regulation created change and created a need to move towards a much more customer-centric world. And, you know, having lived through that, and, you know, it's again, I don't want to say certain words, but this is a unique moment. There's no doubt, I think, that we're going to hit a recession of type. You know, some type of recession is going to hit us coming out of COVID, but we've ridden the dot-com bust, we've ridden, you know, the financial crisis, and what it all comes down to is how you treat customers.
Yeah.
And the brands that survive and flourish are the ones that do it well.
From your standpoint, one of the things I've been counseling a lot of people on throughout this has been, look, we're not in a sandbox where things are going to just go back to what they were, or what you do now doesn't matter. I said, you're going to be judged later on what you do now. Right. And that's in regard to just what kind of humanity you provide to, you know, when it boils down to it. So the empathy to your friends, your family, but also, and strangers, but also to your customers, right? How does a business look at that, you know? And it's a thing. I mean, it's like, it's not, because there's a tendency, and I don't know if you see this, you guys see this, but there's a tendency to think that the empathy an individual has for another individual or animal or whatever is the same as the empathy an institution has for its customers, and it's not.
It's not.
Very different. So, you know, reality is very straightforward on that. As an individual, you know, I look at you, I am able to step in your shoes and respond accordingly. A business is not stepping in the customer's shoes exactly, because they can't. But what they can do is say, look, there are certain measures we can take to support you as well as ourselves, right? And to make sure that in times like this, that we're able to accommodate the worst circumstances that you have, not only the best ones in the normal times, right? And we can work with you to do that. That's where business empathy lies. And then within that, of course, the employees and the customers have a genuinely empathetic relationship too. But on the bigger picture, it's, can we accommodate you as a business in the worst of times to support you through this crisis?
Paul, I want to ask your opinion on this. I mean, I was going to say, I love this format. I love us just kind of having a chat in general, but, I'm going to throw something in there. Years ago, a brilliant friend of mine, Nicholas Kantopoulos, was talking, about, and he's a great guy.
Yeah.
And he was talking about employee engagement long before employee engagement sort of became a thing. I remember him saying to me, because we were kind of working on a little book together, which it's one of these things, it's one of these projects that never kind of sees the light of day. It was quite good, but it was all about these moments in time where I think a customer service agent or as an individual had the ability to change someone's experience for the better, but maybe because of the way in which the business constrained them, they couldn't, right? Because they didn't have they weren't empowered as individuals. You said a beautiful thing, which was about the empathy that we can have for each other as humans. Now, if a business, though, empowers its people and its culture from the top down, is to be empathetic towards the customer, and it gives them enough scope to be able to exercise that empathy in a way which is meaningful. Like right now, for example, sitting with customers and saying, do you know what, this is an acutely difficult time. We realize that you have much bigger issues right now than maybe paying the monthly fee for our solution. You're wondering whether you can keep the lights on or whether you can keep, good people in your business. So, for the next 3 months, what we're going to do is we're going to freeze the payment, and then we're going to add it to the end of your contract or something. I'm thinking it'd be great if that empathy extended to the people in the front line to be able to make those type of changes. Then you have real human to human, interaction. So people do associate the brand with real empathy. I don't know if you see how many examples you're seeing of that type of thing, Paul, at the moment.
It's interesting. The Qualtrics, what they call XM Institute, which is Bruce Temkin, of course, just came out with a study this morning on that. It's kind of engagement, employee and customer experience and engagement. And one of the things the companies themselves said in the survey, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but was that they think they have a very good handle on the customer experience and customer engagement, but not as good a handle on employee engagement, right? They don't quite have a good handle on that, meaning the companies themselves don't really know how to think about empowering employees. And this is a problem. Look, I remember years ago when social business was a thing, IBM decided they were going to take the entire company and make it a social business. And, that's not a simple undertaking. It's what, 400,000 employees, right? And they were going to empower them. And they were doing it like 50,000 a year was kind of, and it was going to be, it was like this, turn that gigantic ship. And needless to say, it failed completely. But, well, you're not going to do that without dramatic overhaul of everything you do. And they didn't do that. They didn't make a dramatic overhaul. They tried, to their credit. But the problem, of course, was even with the first 50,000, I remember that I was talking to a couple of executives there, and they told me, we don't exactly know what to empower them to do without stepping on regulations and this and that. In other words, they get lost in how to actually affect empowerment. And as much as we all would love to say, well, they shouldn't worry about that, they should just, you can't, unfortunately. I mean, that's, again, as an individual, you can choose, the empathy you have is the empathy you have, right? And you don't have to sit there and worry about the legal ramifications unless you really screw up. But in the case of a business, they have to worry about empowering employees and what the legal ramifications are that from day one. And they don't know how to think about them. Now, one of the ways I used to deal with it on a low level was around blogging when it became big at first. Because I don't know if you remember, the very early days of blogging, you would write a blog post if you worked for a business. And remember, Microsoft and Scoville it was the beginning. And Microsoft did the first the reason blogging became what it is thanks to Microsoft to a certain extent. So what happened initially when you would blog, you would write a blog post, then you'd run it by marketing, then you'd run it by legal. And by the time you got the blog post up, it wasn't your voice, and it was irrelevant because it was days later, right?
Yeah.
So, and I used to try to explain to companies, I said, look, you have a legal department, I get it. And if you're looking at it from just a simple existing historical rationale, their job is to prevent fires, but not in this case. I said, in this case, their job is to put out fires, meaning you set the guidelines, the people do what they do, and you don't have to approve every damn word that they put out there. You let them put it out there, and if something comes up, you deal with it. But if you don't do that, you lose all the value of it, and you actually disenfranchise the bloggers themselves, right? So, and did they buy into what I was saying? Not that much. You know, they can't, even to this day, legal departments are still the bane of most companies. So, you know, but I know they think they're doing their job, but when the world changes, so do you have to. It's the same thing. Employee empowerment is a great concept, but it's actually hard to execute in a way that really genuinely empowers the employees without making the company so liable that they're taken down. Right. And I am a huge fan of it happening because you empower employees, customers become very engaged with you. And the empathy, as you said, one-to-one, human to human, becomes the real deal. And I think it's necessary. I think you really have to work it through and do it, though, not sit there and say, too different.
I think people are looking for it, Paul. I think, you know, I don't want to kind of call it out in this term, but I think we are in this sort of age of authenticity. Look, you know, adverts and advertising, I don't know if it's the same in the US, but it's incredible the number of adverts that are coming out now which feature real people, you know, like standing on doorsteps, clapping. And, you know, we've got this whole thing now. It's like we've gone away from the gloss and the glamour of really kind of well manicured and put together advertising campaigns to kind of quick and dirty. It's somebody using their phone. Everyone's much more authentic looking, and I think that resonates more with people now. And I'm writing a little thing just now that, you know, I'm hopefully publishing in the next 2 or 3 weeks, which kind of talks to that. So interesting times.
If you ever want a ZDNet venue, you got one.
Sure.
Hey, Brent, so what do you think on that employee empowerment side? I mean, that's something we don't really talk about much.
I'm actually looking at some of the comments here. Our buddy Heverton Annunciatio.
Brazil.
Yeah, his last name kind of throws me, but he's still got the coolest name.
I think it's Annunciatio.
Annunciatio.
I think it's Brazilian for Anderson. It's my brother.
He says in Brazil, it's still high turnover in front office customer service because they continue to believe the customer service is cost, not profit. And Sven says trust is built on empathy, logic, and loyalty. If you are logical and loyal, you will do much more. It'll be easier to earn empathy. Okay. Alan, can you teach empathy? Do you have to hire for it?
That's a really interesting question.
That's a brilliant question.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I think some people are naturally more empathetic than others. I've met all ends of the spectrum in that respect, you know, through my career, and I know you guys have as well. But do you know what? I think it comes down to to me, people make the difference in a business, no matter where they are. I think the culture of a business, how it's set up, all of those things are the most important things. And I think that empowering your people in the front line has a massive impact on the customer experience. Massive.
I agree. You can teach people ways of I guess you can teach them the avenues available to express the empathy. I don't know if you can really teach people empathy. You can teach people to be better people. You actually can do that, but you know, by showing them by example and so on.
By example. Yeah, 100%.
But
on the flip side of that, I've met bots that have more empathy than a lot of humans too.
well, no argument there.
Especially those humans from Boston. I tell you, those are the worst.
That's a brilliant. Do you know what we should have a segment that's called bots versus humans, and you get two responses, and you've got to decide whether a response.
I actually, you know what? I actually have gotten some. I actually was dealing with ASUS. Remember the router? I was dealing with them on a customer service issue once, and the guy was frustrating me so much. At one point, I said, "Are you actually a person or are you a bot?" Because he kept like repeating this thing over and over again that made no sense to repeat. I think it was a real person, but to this day, I'm not 100% certain. It was either a pretty sophisticated but really, really flawed bot or a really flawed person, right? It was one of the most horrible discussions I think I ever had, because I honest to God could not distinguish. I'm not kidding. I did not.
All right.
I'm holding my tongue now. I was so many. I'll do somebody a damage. So that's me. Zip.
Hey, I just want to throw in Jason Lundy, our buddy Jason. He says, I think you can make people aware of a lack of empathy. Not sure you can teach them to be empathetic.
That's fair. I mean, again, you can't teach anyone equality of mercy, so to speak. But at the same time, you can provide them with avenues to express it, and those avenues, which can be approaches to things and other things, can be taught, but not the actual fundamental emotional, DNA. It's different. That's DNA.
I want to throw in another comment from our buddy, and I haven't heard from this guy in a while, Chris Buckholz. Good to hear from you, Chris. And he says, if you want empathetic employees, you need to start with empathetic leaders. That's where the problems start.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I think 100%. That's the route, because if people see it, and they see it as a virtue, they'll definitely follow it. If you look at the history of the culture in certain companies, the leaders drove those cultures. Companies got names for being a particular way because a leader was a particular way, right? And some of them have eased over time, and some of them haven't.
Hey, let me throw another one in here from the CEO of User Testing, Andy McMillan.
See you in a half hour.
Hey, how you doing, Andy?
You can expose them to other perspectives. So you can maybe you can't teach them empathy, but you can give them a different perspective, and maybe that helps guide them. That sounds interesting.
I think. Again, it's like your own feedback loop as a company. I mean, what are you consuming from your customers as well? Do you understand them? And that's a key part of it as well, right? The only way to have empathy is to have understanding. Mm-hmm. So, if you gather that, if you value it, then definitely.
Well, actually, from that standpoint, our next guest, I think, is here. Our next guest,
not yet.
Really?
On the lookout. I'm on the lookout for her.
She says she's actually logged in. I'll introduce her while we try to get her bring her in. But her name is Katherine Bonesteel. Katherine is somebody I've known many, many years. Actually, I knew her in her rookie PR days when she contacted me and we had some interaction back in the early days. But she's done work with the Dallas Cowboys. She's with a senior PR person at Boca. She's also done demand gen with Marketo. Actually, I think she's worked with Marketo over time. But that's actually, her skills are incredible. But the reason that we're bringing her on, in addition to that, is that I ran across her again doing this extraordinary work in Houston around COVID-19. Somehow, small group of her friends and she have sourced millions of PPEs that they have personally been getting to hospitals, but not just hospitals, the police and their cars, the firemen and their fire trucks and the firehouses, pharmacists and the pharmacy assistants at the drugstores, and so on and so forth. And they're going around Houston wearing masks themselves, delivering it. They've run those kind of auto parades, honk parades for the Houston frontline workers. They've done extraordinary work. They've been starting to get some serious coverage. They've sourced just this insane amount of masks, and they're doing it. They're not doing it to make money. They're doing it to help, and which is why we want to bring her on. Although you're not seeing her, I gather, still, huh? All right. Well,
I haven't seen her just yet.
You guys keep working. You guys keep chatting away, and I'll see about getting her in.
So,
well,
Brent,
one thing. Okay, go ahead. Yep.
No. Okay, Brent. Let's have some fun. I want you to tell me what you think of the term ambient experiences.
Is this some kind of a loaded question or something?
Has somebody put me up to this?
Oh, hold on. Let me move back to this view here. Somebody had to. Let me guess. Could the person who put you up to this, could their initials be Nicole France?
I think she may have been a conspirator.
Hey, it's an interesting term. I don't use it for much of anything, but I don't know if it's going to catch on. I don't know.
Catch on. I'm not sure either. I think holistic is the way. So no, here's an interesting one, right, Brent? To distract you.
Oh, I got a trivia one. I got a trivia for you.
Okay, do it.
Okay. All right, I'm going to pop this up. I want to see how I can do this without. Okay, I'm going to ask you the question, then I'm going to have to show you the response.
Right.
So, in the U.S., the number 2 e-commerce site for sales on e-commerce, because we all know what number 1 is, Amazon, right? Do you happen to know who's number 2?
No, I mean this is for a boy who obviously isn't from United States, so it's going to surprise me anyway. I kind of want is it a hardware store?
No, it isn't.
Okay.
I don't know if either of you are going to get this.
I'm not listening. I'm just.
Oh, by the way, she's here. I can see her now. Okay. So we'll bring her on in a second. But now that I've thrown it out there, I asked Jamie if he knew what the number 2 site in the U.S. for online retail sales is.
Online retail?
Mm-hmm. In the U.S. online retail.
Etsy.
I mean, in Scotland, it would be a liquor store, right? But I don't know if you do them online in the States.
All right, I'm just gonna pop it up here because I didn't realize this company, and they have 5.9% of the overall market, 37.3 for Amazon, but the number 2 is drumroll.
Shopify.
Wow,
how about that?
That's something.
Shopify is number 2 in the U.S. for retail online e-commerce, beating eBay, Walmart, Apple, Target. I mean, all the Shopify. And that raised the question, is Shopify the biggest potential challenger to Amazon?
No. Nobody.
Well, so much for that.
Nobody.
Yeah, okay, done.
Amazon.
Right.
Yeah, we're kind of done with that one.
Yeah.
No, but I thought that was kind of fascinating. Let me go back to that for a second. Because
is that a kind of amalgamation of all the sites that run on the Shopify platform?
Exactly.
Then? Yeah.
Exactly. And that's their marketplace and their third-party sellers.
That's incredible. Absolutely incredible.
I mean, 6% of the U.S. retail, that's very significant for a company that size. I thought it was fascinating.
Yeah, and that just basically provide, the e-commerce connectivity and functionality. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Okay. So that was the stall tactic. I thought it was a good stat. It was it opened my eyes, but let's go back now. And I'm going to leave it to Mr. G to introduce our next
There
guest.
you are.
Hi.
Hey, Catherine.
How are you guys?
So, Catherine, Brent, Jamie. All right. Introduction's done. I actually already told everybody about you. So I literally, while we were, maneuvering here to get you on. So let's just get right into it, really. Because you have done something that blew me away, really. And when I was starting that Let Us Not Forget Hopeful News, one of the first things I ran across was the work you're actually doing in Houston. Now, look, I mean, you look at your background, PR, demand gen, and you've had a stellar career in those things. This is alien territory, basically. I mean, you're sourcing masks and other PPEs and getting them out to frontline workers, not only hospitals, but you're getting them out to, pharmacists and pharmacy assistants and firemen and police. And you have to do all the license stuff. And I mean, you're doing all this astounding number of things, getting featured. I watched you guys on KHOU in Houston on that clip. And it's just the enthusiasm and scope combined it's really moving, really genuinely moving work. So, I mean, you describe how you went from PR demand gen to this for now, at least until you, of course, go back to your main career part. But I mean, how you even got there?
So I'd say back in late January, I went to a doctor's appointment, and my doctor let me know that he didn't have the masks and the protection that they need. So I had some supplies at my house. I brought them to his office and a bottle of champagne, and the nurse literally had tears in her eyes. And at that point, we had been hearing all over the news how difficult it was to get these supplies. I messaged a group of my friends who, collectively we have 16 different degrees and speak many different languages. They're people originally from countries around the world. And we tapped into our own network to connect directly with factories and with suppliers. I reached out to the state of Texas and let them know that we could get these supplies, and started reaching out to my network on LinkedIn and via email. And we were able to directly connect people that needed these supplies desperately and still do with the factories and the suppliers. So trying to cut through the nonsense, we initially started shipping the products to my house, and we paid for them upfront with our own money. And have donated thousands of them to the Houston area. I've shipped them across the country to nurses and doctors that have reached out to me. We went and passed them out to, as you had mentioned, the pharmacies and the grocery stores and the delivery drivers. We've been donating quite a lot to the police department. And basically just, trying to spread the word that we have access to these suppliers, everything from masks to ventilators to COVID tests. And our goal is to just, there's a lot of, unethical things and people trying to price gouge and, charging a lot, kind of middlemanning what's going on. And our goal has been to break through that completely and kind of disrupt the market, to get them what they need. So hopefully we can all get back to work. It's been very, very rewarding. And, for every bad story, there's 20 positive ones. And in knowing that we've been able to help as many of them, hundreds of millions of people that we have helped from our couches, has been one of the most rewarding parts of my career. So, yeah.
So if you were to just say broadly estimated, how many total PPEs, well, again, using broad term, do you think you've managed to source? Just a total, not necessarily distribute yet, but just have available resources in total. What would be a number you'd throw at it?
We did the math, actually, and it's on our website. Every day it grows astronomically, but it's over 2 billion.
Wow.
We have some providers that have 500 million masks. We've been, a lot of people want the 3M products, which are pretty difficult to get. So helping connect them directly to people at 3M, those are huge, huge volumes. The factory that we're working with directly in Mexico alone produces 800,000 a day of the FDA surgical masks. So yeah, it's pretty unbelievable. Delivered though, which is what matters. People that have actually had their hands on these supplies, and those are hospitals and governments and our food providers, people that make our food. It's upwards of 600 million or more, and just the masks, not counting everything else we're doing.
Wow, that's amazing. So let's take it to a different thing, though. I want to sort of ask, so there's two questions. One is sort of based on the conversation we're having right before you kind of checked in, which was on empathy, right? Because obviously it's not an issue of whether you're empathetic or not. You clearly meet the criteria, so to speak, and so do, I assume, all your friends. So, but one of the things we were talking about was, that's a DNA thing. You can find avenues that people can sort of express their empathy through, and you can provide them and show that, but you can't teach empathy. I mean, do you agree with that? Do you disagree with that? By the way, you're fine disagreeing. We're all tough. Okay. So, right. How do you think about that? How do you think about empathy itself?
I think it comes down, empathy and character I tie kind of directly to one another. I think there's a lot of people being very opportunistic about what's going on and looking for ways to pivot, either because their own instability with their jobs, or they see an opportunity. And among all of those people, there's also a lot of really great people that just genuinely want to help and aren't looking to gain anything more than helping a neighbor and helping a friend. I think empathy is a little bit contagious. And when you see someone else doing good things from the bottom of their heart and not expecting anything in return, it motivates other people to do so, which is why we've tried to be as vocal as we can be about the work that we're doing. It's not to toot our own horn. It's been to help inspire other people to realize that each individual can make a difference and make an impact to someone else. We do this parade, as you mentioned, we do a parade every Sunday through the medical center. It started as an idea. We saw another city doing it, and the first one was 5 cars. And the last one we did, we had the biker group and the AMG group and Lamborghinis and the Jeep Club. And at one point it was 300 cars.
Holy God.
And we donated masks. Everybody stayed in their vehicles, but we used it to spread awareness and donated thousands of masks to the police department, and everybody brought food. And it was great to see, a biker that drove 50 miles with 1 can of beans that has lost their job to give to someone else. And then, somebody with a Lamborghini donating cash to help try to solve problems. It's been really amazing. And that being said, I was at the hospital yesterday. The primary reason behind us doing all of this, or at least why I started, is because I have a pretty serious health condition and was in the hospital 14 times in the past 12 months, hospitalized overnight in 3 different countries. And my healthcare team has saved my life, and I'm so grateful for them. And so being able to say thank you and let them know that we appreciate them. And I know the needs far exceed beyond healthcare, which we're trying to help. I mentioned the food in the grocery stores and people not being able to get groceries. And then you think about internationally as well is an area where we're trying to grow to help other countries. But that's where I was kind of heading with the parade thing, is how that started, and just getting everybody to come together has been really great. And it just reignites the fire within everyone. They leave, they're so happy, they're so hopeful. They want to help someone else. People are starting it in different cities, and that's really the goal. It's not for us to take credit. It's to kind of create a movement if we can.
Yeah. It seems that you're kind of well on your way. It sounds like I another thing, look, I mean, I met you when you were, I think, a PR rookie, if I remember correctly, right? I mean, it was like your first year in PR back then, but you went on to a really successful career, and I mean, with Boca, and you had some relationship to the Cowboys, but I don't remember what that was, and then Demand Gen, and I think you worked with Jamie's former company, which was Marketo. Jamie, if you don't know, was president of EMEA for Marketo, right? So
nice.
Yeah, so talk a little bit about that part of your career with the PR and the Demand Gen side, and also how you go from PR to Demand Gen, right? That would be interesting too.
Yeah, so I was the youngest full-time employee at the state of Texas. I worked at the Capitol when I was 16, and that's when I started undergrad for college. I graduated college when I was 19, and my first gig was at a PR firm that specialized in government and regulatory clients. We did not speak to the caliber of Brent and Paul, and it was more on a local level of who we were dealing with and stakeholder relations from tier one media relations perspective. That was not what I was doing. I started social media there, the social media department, and then I went to a marketing agency and I built the PR department, and it was called Digital PR. I then went from there to work for a consulting that represented NASA, and did some stakeholder relations there. And then at that point, I was recruited, but coincidentally enough, so a group, a PR firm from San Francisco, happened to be touring the WeWork in Austin, and I met them, and they recruited me to come join the team. I started doing media relations, which at that point I hadn't done nearly the scale and how fast-paced tech is. It was very, very different, and primarily focused on CRM related clients. And then I started the digital insights department there, which is where we kind of measured the value of PR. We did SEO. I came in and served as, an interim director of demand generation for several companies. And then after that, I went and studied data science. And got my degree, and got a whole bunch of certificates. So kind of shifted focus from PR a little bit more towards marketing and Marketo, and became a Salesforce admin. And then from there, a lot of my old clients started reaching out to me because they needed help with media or needed help with marketing, and was able to start my own company. And then we've been working to build some AI, and have been working with Salesforce and getting advice from their product teams. I have done coaching and international coaching, coached the CX leadership team at SAP in Germany, and just doing a lot of things like that. But work has definitely been a lot different, as I notice with everybody, given this crisis. And as a consultant, when things start to slow down, it's been great to stay so busy, even though it's not as lucrative as normal in terms of making money, but it's been very, very rewarding.
Well, listen, thank you. First, thanks.
Thank you for all of what you're doing.
It's amazing. So if people want to get a hold of you for either to help you in your effort, or they want to steal you for their company, how do they do that?
They can email me, Katherine.Bonesteel@NixCovid. I'm very, very active on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. So they can add me on there as well. And yeah, feel free to send anybody our way. We want to help as many people as we can. Particularly, we're working directly with the governments and directly with enterprises, and versus, getting supplies for someone who then sells them to somebody else is kind of how we're going about doing this. And Brent, I have stalked you for years. I know Paul knows this, back in my CRM and media days, and it's been really, really great to be able to meet you today on
Oh no, the pleasure is all mine, and hearing what you're doing it's really great. I just hope that the word gets out even more, and you inspire even more people to do things like this, because you can never have too many people doing what you're doing. So this is great,
and we'll make sure there are links to what you just said on the show notes. So thank you.
And it's beautiful. And what my big takeaway is, empathy is contagious. So thank you. I love that.
It was a great. I actually scrolled on that.
That'll be in the clip, I'm sure.
That's right. All right. Well, very much. Take care.
Really,
And,
Thank you guys.
See ya.
we don't want to keep you from doing all the great work you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, reach out to me anytime. We're working 24/7 over here. We've really been expanding our team like crazy every single day. We brought on several people that are helping manage Europe. The former CFO of St. Vincent's and the founder of Irvine Medical Center are helping our team. We have a lot of credible people that are jumping in to try to help, and people with influence and connections are buying power. I think the more people that we have involved, the quicker this will be put behind us and the more lives that we can save. So encourage anybody that wants to get involved. Happy to have them join our team.
And we'll push people your way, we promise. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank
you.
Have a good day.
You too.
You too. Wow. That was great.
Yeah.
So do we just stop there? I mean, that's a mic drop moment.
Yeah, I don't feel Eric, you got a tough act to follow, man. When you come.
Don't worry, I'll take it down about 20 notches with my discussion of exactly.
All right. Well, so Eric is in the green room, but Eric, you got to wait because Mr. PG is going to talk all sorts of stuff about exactly right now.
All right. So watch list segment number whatever. So we're now talking about why exactly one. And actually, I'm going to do it very quickly so we can get Eric on. But here's the thing about exactly. I mean, they actually followed this interesting trend that was on the watch list this year, which I've never really seen before, which is, and this is a positive, even though it might not sound as positive as it is. They were good in most everything. There was one place where they were exceptional, and that was with their product, actually. But in everything else, they were good, which is unusual because usually when you're looking at watch list winners, unless you get all the way up to the elite level, or even with distinction somewhat, you find that there's certain areas where most of the companies are very strong and certain areas where they're somewhat weak. In Exactly's case, they were good in almost every single area. Now, again, as I said, they stood out in product. And you look at Exactly historically, you understand that. I mean, they were one of the leaders in sales compensation back in the day. They were one of the first companies to ever create a data service, actually, that was based on benchmark data that they had gathered on the compensation side. They were one of the things that their management has always been able to do is to identify and align with the trends in the marketplace. So when they knew they had to sort of go beyond a straightforward compensation program, they took the product into a broader category. It's one that's pretty well known. It's called sales performance management, and they've worked from that standpoint. And what they did, which was intelligent, and also one of the reasons that they have the impact they do in the market, is that they did something which I ordinarily don't like when I see vendors do, but in their case, they kind of got away with it, which is that they built a maturity model around sales performance management. Now, the reason I'm saying what I'm saying is this is not an insignificant thing. And the reason I'm saying what I'm saying is typically when a vendor builds a maturity model, it pretty much leaves out anything but the part of the maturity model related to the vendor, meaning it's not really a maturity model. It's basically a company product model, maturity model, right? It's not a categorical one. In this case, they did some things here where in their SPM maturity model, where they actually began identifying things which they don't actually provide, but are necessary for sales performance management to succeed. In other words, they took a genuine ecosystem view of what they did. And this is, for impact in the 21st century, this is a necessary facet. So the power of their product, which is also based on the ecosystem that they built with their partners and others with their product at the epicenter, is one of the reasons why they have the impact that they have. Another reason is, and this is to the credit of the guest who will be coming on in just a couple of minutes, Eric Charles, is they've understood outreach in a really, really intelligent way for many, many years. This is a mature part of what they do. They do thought leadership. They do also understand outreach. So, for example, they have had, and again, mostly thanks to Eric in a couple of stints at exactly. They've had a very strong analyst relations program. They've reached out even in both formal and informal ways. They've maintained relationships with the people who, like analysts like us, who do provide gateways, to other things, which is really the only value I think we actually have. Again, they're thoughtful. They've taken it beyond product focus. They've taken pure product focus. They've taken out the thought leadership. They built a maturity model that, in fact, goes for an ecosystem, doesn't just go to the heart, and thus for the category, not just to the heart of what exactly does. They've been visionary in the sense that they've understood the idea of data services before most other companies even knew the words, right? And they've built strong outreach. Now, there are other areas I can go into, but again, as always, we're short on time. We'll fix that next time. But and from here, we're great, right? I think this is exactly wins because they put together all the pieces they need to and done some visionary things around them that create not only impact in a given year, but the infrastructure necessary to have that impact out the next 3. So with that, Brent, why don't you introduce our next guest?
All right, here we go. Let me bring everybody on at the same time.
Right.
There we are.
Oh, great. Shotgun.
Actually, no. The one on top is the brown Bess from the Revolutionary War. That's a historical piece. And the one below it is the Spencer from the U.S. Civil War. I collect.
Duck your head.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I collect old things.
So those are originals.
Those are originals.
No joke.
And a Fender Stratocaster.
And which you do not want me to pick up and play. But I'm still hoping I can figure it out a little bit better on this.
Wait a minute, man. You missed the beginning of the show where Jamie pulled out his guitar and went to work.
And he's a pro, though. Jamie's literally a pro. He was a Scottish rock star in his youth. Now he's nearly a technology rock star.
So Eric, the next company, All Hands, right? We're doing something. We need to make it happen. Okay.
You got. I'm up for it. I'm up for it. Challenge accepted.
Hey, the CRM players need a house band. So
yeah. Wow. So, Brent, this is you take it away, and I'll jump in, but because I don't want to dominate all the time on this.
Well, I mean, I think we're supposed to ask questions based off of what we just heard, but man, you got me thinking about the Civil War at this point. I mean, you've got all sorts of really interesting things back there. I don't know if I want to get into a lot of what's going on, but what's going on with you guys in terms of you guys deal with a lot of customers. What are you seeing with the pandemic? What are your customers asking you? What are your customers needing you guys to do right now?
So it's, I mean, it'd be a lie to claim that some aren't asking for help. Like if they have to, for example, furlough their entire sales team because the space they're in is ground to a complete halt, and we're working with them. I mean, I'll admit one of our first questions is, and what are you doing for the people that have contracts with you? But
that's what they're asking you right off the top.
We've got people definitely coming to us very quickly and saying, I just let my entire sales team go. I really can't see paying a SaaS license for nobody here. Let's work together. And, we respond to that. So I think a lot of people are dealing with that one. The other one that we're seeing a lot of is how do we shift things around a little bit? I'm trying to do this without doing a product pitch, but it's like we've got a territories tool, for example, and people are saying, hey, reps are always leaving. We've frozen rehiring. So it's not that they've let anybody go, but there's that usual churn in sales teams. How do we fix all this? And we've been helping them out with that a little bit. Or how do you come in and rebuild an annual revenue plan when everything's gone away, and how do you get ahead of it? So we're getting a lot of interest in those areas. And then I've been working on a research project recently. This is one of I started this before COVID-19 really hit, and faculty from the University of Houston, University of Georgia, and University of Denver that have gotten.
Wait a minute, what was that second one? Wait, what was that second one you mentioned?
I said Houston, Georgia, and Denver. Okay,
Georgia.
Georgia. I can't remember what order it went in.
You only said one. As far as you only mentioned one. So
yeah, Sun Lam from Georgia, Mike Ahern from Houston, and Yashar from Denver. And Mohsen, who's a graduate student under Mike at Houston, working with them when we started this survey of people on sales excellence. It was going great. And we're collecting data, and COVID-19 hits. So if you're an academic, you know that now half of your data is tainted effectively. And not really tainted, but so then we had to add questions about COVID, and now we're having to rebuild the survey results reflecting that some answers, we're trying to separate out. These are the answers that were collected before it was declared a pandemic. These are the answers collected afterwards. And of course, that's going to change. Actually, next year is going to be very interesting when we rerun the survey. So there's all sorts of things going on in like sales team performance that are impacted by this. And one of the exercises I went through, and I'm actually doing it internally, is I worked with our marketing team to build out a plan. I said, okay, I want a plan that takes us to the end of May. And that plan, I want the worst case scenario, the meh case scenario, as I call it, and best case legit scenario. And what is the impact of your team? How will we measure the impact, and what do we do? Then I said, now I want you to take it to the end of July. And then I want you to take it to the end of the year and build out the plan in advance. And I'm trying to push. That's actually one of the bigger ones. It's amazing the number of people that weren't planning. So when Salesforce said Dreamforce was going to become a virtual event, I already had that in my worst case full year plan, that I might lose Dreamforce as a customer engagement opportunity, an analyst engagement opportunity, and a prospect, lead generation activity. It's gone now. So, but I already had at least a skeleton of a plan worked out. So my reaction was not reactive, is a little more like, okay, go pull this piece out of the bucket. I think a lot of people don't think that way. Monte Carlo simulation, statistical analyses where you got to put as much on the downside as you put on the upside when you run a model, so that you're ready for that worst case scenario.
So the number of times I hear, sorry, Brent. I was going to say the number of times I hear people saying, hopefully, or I hope, and I have to remind them that hope is not a strategy.
Right.
Right now, I think exactly what you did, Eric, is like kind of look at that worst case and literally plan around that, and everything else then is upside. Is absolutely the way we need to behave.
You might like this, Jamie. One of the things I was talking to one of our customers about, he said the same thing. Oh, I hope the whole nation turns the corner. I said, great. How are you going to keep your top sales reps? He's like, what are you talking about? I said, look, most companies have put a halt on hiring. And I guarantee you, the second people want to say rebuild up their sales team or their marketing team or their engineering team, they're going to go looking for companies. They're going to find people waiting. And if you don't already have a plan in place of how to retain top performers, you're going to get hammered. And it gave me this look of, but I was being hopeful. I said, yeah, there's going to be challenges in hope.
Well, here's the other thing, Eric. I was going to say, you look at how companies respond to this, and companies. I hear many companies and friends talking about, COVID, it's destroyed us. It's wiped out Q1, Q2. It's done this. On its own, it has not. Right? It is an environmental factor which has come in, and a significant one. But what these environmental factors do is they expose weakness. They themselves don't wipe things out. So, if someone wasn't carrying enough pipeline into the year and COVID came, it's exposed weakness in the pipeline. But people who had really good pipeline, right, have taken the impact, but they've managed to kind of get through it, right? They've managed to get through without that huge impact. And it's the companies that, weren't at that level where the weakness is exposed.
Yeah.
I'm going to be upset that you said hope wasn't a strategy, because that means I'm doomed.
I still do it. It's not a strategy, though.
I want to touch on, we've been talking through empathy for most of the hour here. So I want to throw it over to, sales compensation after after the pandemic? Where is that? Is there a role for empathy in what you guys help companies do? And what does it look like after this?
Absolutely. I mean, and you can debate it, but it's look, whenever you hire a rep, you put them on a draw and you put them on a ramp plan. So companies already have empathy to the sales reps when they first hire them. Some industries, not all, but some industries will need to rethink a ramp and quota process for whenever we come out of this. Now, if your industry's been destroyed and you suddenly bring back your top rep and there's no pipeline, as Jamie pointed out, because they've been furloughed for the last 4 months and you haven't done any outbound mailings and you haven't had anybody do a walkthrough, well, then you're going to need to show some empathy. And empathy is a strategy. People work harder for companies they like. People work harder for companies that care. I mean, it's a core part of our values as a firm, but I think it's got to be a core part of your true strategy. Show that you care, and man, you will get amazing efforts out of folks.
Why is that such a hard thing to comprehend for companies? I mean, what you just said, people work harder for companies that care. That's the same that can say for customers stay more loyal to vendors that care. Mm-hmm. But why doesn't that not seem to translate to some companies? That feeling of if you show a little bit more than just asking for the transaction, you might have a little bit more loyalty, or you might have harder workers.
I think it gets back into where people, when we made human resources a number in a spreadsheet, and I love spreadsheets. Mm-hmm. And people forgot the human side of it. But one of my favorite was, but then you have a few people, like there was a great piece in HBR years ago, and I think it was HBR, and it was, why was Costco doing so well against other big box club stores? And they said, well, they paid the workers a little bit better, and they took advice from the floor, and they took good care of them. And then they found that they stayed around longer, and there is a value to longevity. I mean, but this one, it was a great article because it had numbers. It said, look, this company has to rehire every 7 months. Costco has twice the longevity, which means twice the experience, twice the, it's over here on this aisle, or let me help you with that, or whatever it is. Yeah. And so companies fail to put the numbers around. I love data. I love numbers. You can put numbers on all of this. I mean, I try to convince people, it's like, if you've got a rep with 3 years of experience, you should be trying to keep them, because our own data shows that they really pay off in the years 3 to 5. That's like the most productive time in longevity at your firm a sales rep has. But too many companies just let them go. Man, they cut their teeth and get really good. And the next thing you know, well, they became a manager over here. Well, why didn't you make them a manager? Well, we didn't think they were worth it. Boy, they're really worth it at that new firm. Maybe you should take another look at it.
Wow.
It's why actually one of the questions I hate in sales performance, one of the worst questions I think is, what percentage of my reps should make quota? I really hate that question because it implies that you want a certain percent to miss their numbers. Right. So either what? So you're admitting that you have bad hiring, bad training, bad product, what is it? I mean, in a perfect world, in a hope world, Jamie, 100% of reps would make a quota, and that quota would pay all the bills, and the company would grow.
It sounds like we're still in some ways in the Glenn Ross. You're top salesman, you get a Cadillac. Second guy, you get a set of steak knives. Last guy, you're out. It sounds like we're still operating there.
There is that. My son, I have a 17-year-old who had to read, was assigned Death of a Salesman. So he was actually watching it here from home, since his high school is my kitchen table. And I walked out to sit there and watch Dustin Hoffman's amazing job in that movie. And he's like, but Dad, isn't this the stuff, like some of this is the stuff that you work in? I'm like, yeah, and this really hurts because this attitude that you see through this, I have seen in my career.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. One last question for you. Story of that Spencer rifle.
The Spencer is an amazing one. It definitely showed you the industrial capability of the Union. I mean, it's your first breech loading firearm, which means you don't. It's like if we wanted to fire that Brown Bess once, because then it's really old and probably blow up in your face. I mean, to fire a black powder rifle, you stand up, you rip it open, you pour powder, you tamp it. I mean, and the best guys can get off like 3 rounds a minute. I mean, they're amazing.
Jesus.
Spencer, I could lie down and I could keep loading and I can keep shooting and I can shoot faster. A rate of fire makes such a difference.
Right.
Now, I wish I could claim this one came from this particular. One of my favorite stories is there was a Union commander who, you know, in those days, you know, you rallied a unit from your hometown kind of a thing. And he bought Spencers for his entire unit out of his own pocket and was using them in violation. And someone looked at us, what are you doing? And then they saw him in action and it turned into we need to get this for everybody. And you can see this particular firearm in Unforgiven.
Really?
That is the firearm that is carried in that one. When Clint Eastwood says, do you still have that Spencer?
Wow.
I remember that now.
No, that's one of my favorite movies of all time by my favorite.
Oh, fantastic movie.
You should have never hung my best friend in the window if you didn't want to get shot.
and then I have to say, I yelled at the TV as I do when I see inaccuracies. That is actually the Spencer carbine because it's a shorter barrel. It's designed for horse cavalry.
Right.
And same with the one in the movie. That's not a rifle. It's a carbine. But, you know, I don't do that in the theater. I promise. It's just if you watch it.
Did it actually work? I mean, did they change it as a result of you?
Yeah. Yeah. And he still got the Oscar. So, you know.
Yeah.
Well, look, I was going to say, you might not shout out, but I can tell you for definite when despite Mel Gibson's awful Scottish accent, when Braveheart came out, you would have swore you were at a live event because when Scotland defeated the English army at the Battle of Stirling, the whole audience stood up and applauded and cheered, which was quite unheard of in a British cinema. So there you go.
Wow. Well, I'd like to say on that note, but I'm not sure what
that bombshell.
Yeah, I don't even know what that note was. Right. That's note. British ends up and cheer. Okay, well, that's a good way to end the plays.
Actually, Jamie, if you ever come to visit me in the other room, I've got a two-handed sword that was used for ceremonial, a battle axe, a couple halberds, and some bronze pieces from the Greco-Roman era. So, you know,
wow,
you can have a Braveheart moment with the full blade.
Definitely.
Oh my God. Jamie's going to violate all international travel laws.
That's right. Well, look, I've got enough points I can't spend right now, so you're on.
Listen, I'm sitting with like 1.1 million points from United right now, right? And I'm literally going to buy my Apple Watch from United for 249,000 points.
Why not?
Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
I had to go. My one camera just ran out on me.
Well, that's why you went black. You went black for about 30 seconds.
That's what happened.
Okay. Well, even that's a better way to end it.
This is black. That's a sign, I guess. We better end this now. Yes. Although my takeaway from Eric is he actually said he loves spreadsheets.
Yes. Yes.
Well, if you disagree with him, he'll shoot you from a horse with a.
And my takeaway is that empathy exists everywhere, and particularly empathy for your salespeople, your frontline people. So awesome. Love it.
Spoken like a board of advisors member. Exactly. True member.
Well, this has been another cool show. We covered some serious ground on this one. You know, I like the empathy theme kind of weaved its way through the whole thing, and empathy has been discussed quite a lot over the last several months. We'll see if that discussion actually turns into some real stuff after a while, huh?
It's getting there.
Yeah, we'll see.
It's getting there.
All right, man. Thanks, Eric, for joining us and for not shooting at us. That's always appreciated.
Appreciate it. Don't behead us next time.
Yeah, that's right. So we get to do this is going to be a first because I believe
that's right.
So I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
And I'm Jamie Anderson.
Wow.
That was perfectly timed.
Yes, it was. That acting training came right through.
Yes, and the guitar playing too. All right. Well, we will see you next Thursday for a CRM Playaz Weekly, but tomorrow you have to excuse the intrusion because we're coming back talking sports. So we'll see you tomorrow.
Signing off.
Thank you.